Hello everybody, I'm Raw Toast and welcome back to the life and suffering of Sir Brante. My apologies for the lack of uploads in the last couple of days. I've had a few things going on, and I also went to an event called PAX in Australia, which was a lot of fun. Still guys, let's get back into the game, shall we, my friends? A lot has happened since our childhood with becoming a young man. We had the death of a friend, which was very saddening, but we'll see how we go from here. Stephen's arrival. During lunch, Father tells you to stay home in the evening and prepare to meet some important guests. Your elder brother Stephen will return home by dinner tonight. Joining him will be your grandfather, Gregor Brante, as well as a noble friend of the family. You were excited about your brother's return. It's been years since you last saw him. How has he changed during his years away from home? Your father awaits the guests anxiously. The doorbell rings. 3 people are standing outside. Grandfather is the first to come in, naturally. He has not changed a bit since his last visit, still eyeing the house with contempt, looking for any reason to demean it. Grandfather is followed by a stately young man dressed in a jacket embroidered in silver, whom you barely recognize as your brother. Stephen casts a glance at your threadbare clothes, your dirty fingernails, and smirks. The last to enter the house is a personable gentleman with a worn-out, wrinkled face. You have heard a lot about this man from father and grandfather. He is Baron Augustine Elborn, Stephen's uncle, a family friend, and the province's prefect, which means that he is the head judge and thus father superior. Sir Elborn smiles lightly and offers you his hand. And this must be your younger son, Barry. Yes, you have your father's eyes, young man. Father bows slightly to grandfather and Sir Elborn, but there is a moment of quiet when Stephen's turn comes. Father reaches out to him awkwardly, expecting an embrace. There is a question in Stephen's eyes as he looks at grandfather. The old man shakes his head imperceptibly. We noblemen oughtn't to put our emotions on public display, father, not even after a lengthy separation. There is no embrace. Instead, Stephen nods to father curtly. He responds in kind, his face devoid of emotion. After the greeting, you proceed to the sitting room. Elborn is the first to enter. He kisses mother's hand and Gloria's too, and tussles Nathan's hair as he sees him hiding behind the table. Grandfather acknowledges them with a glum nod. Greetings, Lydia Brante. I remember you were kind to me when I was but a child. And you must be Nathan. You can barely walk when I saw you last. The older brother ignores Gloria completely. Not even a greeting. You proceed to the dining room in a dignified manner and take your seats. The dishes smell delicious, but they merely punctuate the overwhelming tension at the table. Elborn is the only one with a friendly smile on his face. The dinner is splendid, Lydia. Did you choose the dishes yourself? You have a truly refined palate. It warms my heart to know Stephen spent his early years with you. Womanly care always does a child good, no matter the estate. Your fork freezes in the air halfway to your mouth. You expect many things from a noble of the sword, but words of praise for a low-born woman are not one of them. You cast a glance at grandfather, who looks like he's about to choke on those words. It would do my grandson more good to stay at boarding school among his equals. Please, Gregor, parenting is no less important. Nothing can replace a mother's love, I cannot deny it. It saddens me greatly that my late sister could not be there to raise Stephen. But there was still a family for him, and he was surrounded by love. How could that be bad? And besides, his father was always by his side all the while. A father's example is always the best. After all, Robert earned the judge's rank the same way you did. Your grandson will surely follow in your footsteps, and who knows, perhaps even the younger men of the Brante family will contribute to the... You clumsy low-born cretin! Everybody is startled by the sudden outburst. Grandfather's face turns red. He's glaring at a young lady servant holding a pitcher over a glass. Stephen is sitting right next to her, dabbing a napkin on a fresh stain on his jacket. Begone this instant! The lady servant runs away, leaving the pitcher on a small table by the door. After a quiet moment, Elborn smiles again. It appears the servants have left us, yet dinner is far from over. Worry not, uncle. There are enough commoners at this table to keep us served with food and drink. Stephen glares at Gloria across the table. She's sitting right next to you. She shrinks down, hunches under his gaze. Father furrows his brows. Mother covers her mouth with trembling hands. Grandfather sneers. Stephen's gaze does not move. The silence lasts far too long. Then he starts to rise from her chair. If the Brante gentleman so wishes. Your hands clenched into fists under the table. How could he bring himself to humiliate his own family, his own mother and sister like this? It's all Grandfather's doing. Stephen could not even bring himself to embrace Father without his permission. And yet they are noblemen, and they have the right to act this way? If there is any way this dinner can become even more unbearable, you do not want to see it. Join Gloria in her plight. You deliberate for a moment, then take the napkin off your lap and rise to join Gloria. A moment later, you hear the sound of another chair moving. Your mother joins you. The three of you now refill glasses, serve food, and clear away dirty dishes. So Elborn tries to make small talk with Father, but in vain, so he focuses his attention on Grandfather and Stephen. Grandfather is pleased to inform him of Stephen's achievements at the boarding school, especially his exemplary sword-fighting skills. He constantly stresses the importance of your elder brother for the future of the family. You listen to him dispassionately as you continue serving new dishes to the table. As you wait at the nobleman's table, you, your sister, and your mother never bump into each other. Your labor is impeccable. Grandfather could not have found fault with it even if he tried. Your shoulders and back are aching, but being a manservant inside your own house hurts even more. When the guests finally leave, Mother and Gloria embrace you with relief. You did not neglect your relatives and share the humiliation, and the composure that you have shown gave you new strength. Gloria, relations +1. Willpower +5, ready for action. Hot, dry wind sweeps through the city from the barren lands around it. The noble residents of Anzanet prefer to remain in their chambers, while the commoners huddle in the tents or in the shade of the silver tree. You are on an errand right now. Your father wrote a letter to a noble acquaintance, and you are to deliver it. Thomas, the boy down the street, is tagging along. The two of you are inseparable now. The errand is an easy one, so you decide to take this opportunity to loiter around the part of Anzanet where the nobles live. So here you are, in the middle of the city square, resting on the ancient brickwork by the old fountain in the merciful shade of the gargantuan silver tree. Thomas is by your side, lazily slouching on the edge of the fountain's basin. It's a hard life for commoners like you and me. Either you break your back in a workshop day and night, hoping someone will buy your goods someday, or you become a manservant to some noble. You never get a chance to enjoy life. This is our lot, you remind him. We work and endure and suffer. Thomas waves your words away. Yeah, I know that already. Mother keeps drilling that stuff into me. We must be humble. Our strength is patience and persistence. So yeah, I say. I want to make my fortune no matter what. So how ain't that living by my lot, I ask you? By the lots, they ain't easy. Let's take you for example, Brante. Your father's a nobleman. But even if that didn't make you one, just look at your hands. You never had to work as hard as me, but we have the same lot, so we're supposed to suffer the same. Or look at your father. He's a judge. He toils at the prefecture day and night doing his judging, and he's a noble? I've never seen an Arcanian work as hard as he does. You shrug. The Arcanians are a different race. The books say they were born to rule over humans. They are never commoners, always nobles of the sword by birth. They founded the empire after subduing all the human kingdoms on the continent. Humans will never be their equals. Arcanians are always better, smarter, stronger, and their skin is a noble shade of blue. If the books are to be believed, of course. You have never seen one for yourself. Your idle chatter is suddenly interrupted by a rugged-looking guardsman dressed in black and green. He chases you away from the fountain. Common rabble like you have no place here. You hear the clattering of hooves and wheels against the cobblestones and see flags bearing a coat of arms. A sable serpent on a field of vert that makes you squirm. It's the Archduke's coat of arms. The Milandius dynasty. The carriage door opens, revealing a young lady in a luxurious dress. You cannot look away from her. Those dainty shoulders, suggested by not revealed by the cut of her dress, her black hair cascading over them, her stately slim silhouette, her pouty lips and prim nose, and those eyes, dark like the night sky. The way she moves, fluidly, gracefully. And most incredible of all, her skin glows an azure blue. She is a masterpiece given life. She is an Arcanian. Clear the way for me. The Melanidas guardsmen work to quickly clear the way to the fountain for the Arcanian lady. The searing sun dances over her skin in bizarre patterns. With one elegant motion, she reveals a handkerchief, then leans over the basin and wipes her head and neck with its cool water. Oh, B! That's Octavia Milandius, our Archduke's own daughter! The Arcanian turns away and proceeds gracefully back to her carriage. You see something slip out of her hand and fall onto the cobblestones right next to you. Her handkerchief. It is right there by your feet. Intricate craftsmanship, expensive woven fabric, delicately decorated with emerald filigree. Your heart skips a beat. Will you dare draw the beautiful Arcanian's attention in order to return her lost possession? Or would you rather not attempt to cross the chasm between you and her? Give the handkerchief back to Octavia. It takes a moment to overcome your fear. You follow the young lady Melodius and call out to her in a nervous voice. She turns around, her beautiful face marred by a puzzled expression. You extend the dropped handkerchief towards her. Lady Octavia's face contorts into a sneer. She signs to the guardsman indifferently. A guardsman gauntlet-clad hand slaps you in the face. It rings your head like a heavy bell. Your nose cracks obediently under the staggering force. The rest of you follow suit and you fall prone. You can discern the guardsman's voice through the painful din in your ears. Should I take the handkerchief back, lady? After a commoner's hands has befouled it, let him wipe himself with it for all I care. The carriage drives away. Thomas runs up to you and drags you back to the fountain. Your head is still ringing from the blow. The fateful handkerchief is still crumpled in your hand. Octavia remembers you. Willpower -5. Matters of the heart event has happened. Conditions: met a girl. You experience your first romantic feelings. Year 1130, spring, the quorum decree. 12 years old now, you overhear an important conversation. It is a spring night, and Mother has just sent everyone to bed. You walk past Father's study and hear voices coming from beyond the door. Grandfather is yelling and Father is replying quietly. The elder Brante men are fighting, arguing about the place of commoners in the city. You sneak outside to avoid Mother's attention and hide next to the open window of the study. Perhaps they'll mention you too. That low-life idiot had the gall to pay me a visit and beg me for some service. He had the insolence to ask me outright. He thought I was going to support his claim for the chairman's seat in the lesser quorum. How dare he? Father, please listen. Mayor Egmont may be lowborn, but he carries a lot of clout in Magra. He owns 5 iron mines. A friend like him could be quite useful. Should he become the chairman of the lesser quorum? I don't give a damn about who Egmont is, Robert. What he is, however, is lowborn. His lot is humility and obedience. The likes of him can never rule anything. They're nothing but a flock of sheep that need a firm, noble hand to guide them. I wasted so many years trying to quash that quorum decree, but that accursed Cornelius Tempest did everything in his power to make the Emperor sign the pathetic screed. And now even lowlifes can wield power. True power, Robert. Just the right to discuss the size of Archduke's tax, nothing more. That is only the beginning. What's next? Are they going to arm the lowlifes now? Make them into judges? If the Empire rejects the foundations and the lots, the entire edifice will crumble. Bah, who am I telling this to? It is already crumbling, and you, my son, and heir, are a harbinger of its destruction. Father, I'm begging you, I do not wish to marry a third time. Lydia is a good wife and a dutiful mother to my children. If you would only allow her to... I will allow them nothing. Neither Egmont, nor that freeloading wench of yours. What will you want me to do next? Live by the laws of the lowborn? I can already see where this is going, and I'd rather run my own sword through my gut than live in a country where nobles and lowborns share the same rights. My only dream was to see the name of Brante in the Blue Book, but that dream will never come true. They will never call me Venerable El Brante, and it's all because of this marriage of yours. My only hope is to hear Stephen addressed in such manner one day. Thank the twins that didn't let you ruin the boy. He's about to grow up to be a true nobleman. His children will bear the name El Brante. You have 2 more grandsons. Those spineless milksops from the common lots? They're incapable of anything. The best your middle son could do is sneak into the Imperial College and get ennobled by the mantle, although I have grave doubts about even that. As for that downtrodden Nathan, I hold out no hope for him whatsoever. You hear grandfather's heavy footsteps, the thudding of his cane, and the slamming of the door. It's time to sneak back home before you're discovered. Power +1. Overseer and power. School begins year 1130. You started studying at the School of Sir Tibor and begin to master the sciences. A storm of expectations. Finally, a day comes when the teachers stop coming to the house, but before you can breathe a sigh of relief and put the books away, Father asks you to come to his study. You've grown, my son. It's time for you to continue your education away from home. I've chosen a deserving school for you, Sir Tibor's School for the children of noblemen and well-off commoners. Naturally, it is not a boarding school for nobles, so you will study there during the day and come home in the evening. You share the news with your best friend Thomas. Sir Tibor's school, eh? Yeah, I gotta ask my parents to send me there too as soon as they get the coin together. Father says his workshop has toiled day and night for years to save up for my education. The school is based in an ancient estate of the Arcanian design. The classrooms are tall and spacious with massive benches. The sounds of scraping quills and lectures on history and imperial law and theology echo under the vaulted ceilings. The rules are strict, the lessons tiring. Restless Thomas keeps getting distracted and several times he gets his hand slapped with a stick for it. Each teacher demands flawless mastery of their subject. Every day, Father asks you about your studies. You have already told him twice how Magra joined the Empire and how the Nobles' Court of Honor is different from the Commoners, the civil court in the city prefecture. But Father keeps pressuring you to work even harder. When it's time to go to bed, Mother will not let you go to sleep until you recite a newly learned prayer for her. And when it's time to go to school, you promise her every day that you will behave with great humility and steer clear of insolent behavior of any kind, for you still live by the commoner's lot, and that lot is hard work and suffering. Your first month in school draws to a close, and the teachers announce there will be exams at the end of the month to determine the best and the worst students in each subject. Father insists that you devote all your spare time to studying law and history if you wish to follow in his footsteps. But when you speak to Mother every day, you start considering theology. You still remember the revelations and divine visions that came to you in your earliest years. You have only one more day until the exam. You've locked yourself away in your room and it's already getting late. Your desk is covered with handwritten notes surrounded by leather-bound books. Just looking at them makes you queasy, but you have to read through all of them again. At least for one of your subjects. There is a nagging thought in your mind. Thomas ended up in big trouble the other day. He got in a fight with several boys who lived next street. They heard about your wooden fortress and got in an outrage by the fortification built by commoners. They swear to dismantle it tonight. Thomas swore he would defend the fortress until the end. Perhaps you should abandon the books to rescue the friend in need. Then you hear your little brother Nathan knocking at the door. He stands there shyly, not saying a word. He often does that, standing still and staying speechless until you either speak first or he runs away. but this time he actually says something. The door is locked. Are you okay, Barry? Is there anything I can do to help? Your head is spinning. This is the last evening before the school exam. If you fail, your family will be very disappointed. You have to refresh your memory on law or theology, either one or the other. But Thomas and your fort are about to be stormed. Why today of all days? You grind your teeth in rage of the thought. Nathan's by the door, trying not to bother you. He wants to help you the only way he can, for reasons known only to him. Will you accept his help? Spend a moment with Nathan. You cannot help but pay attention to your brother's quiet, weak voice. You push the books away. Nathan runs to you and wraps his arms around your legs. They should just leave you alone. I don't want you to get sick. Warmth emanates from his hands. You feel the burden of the responsibilities thrust upon you fall from your shoulders. At last you realize something. You can make your own decisions rather than submitting to the will of others. You laugh at this realization and feel a new spring in your step. Nathan laughs with joy when he feels this. He takes your hand and pulls you outside. You've studied enough. You spend the rest of the evening playing with your little brother, teaching him how to build a watchtower out of wooden planks, sticks, and old rags behind the house. Nathan succeeds. Nathan's success in construction leaves much to be desired. Unlike his skill in covering himself with mud, still he is absolutely overjoyed. The morning comes. You barely have time to wake up before you are walking to the menacing edifice of the school. The entire day is a constant flow of questions demanding answers. You give satisfactory response on law and history, although you are somewhat confused by the many technicalities and chronological orders. Your knowledge of the interpretations of the lots leaves much to be desired. Your parents are dissatisfied with your performance. You know that you could have worked harder. Still, you believe yesterday was not a waste. Nathan, relations +1. Still, willpower +10, full of power. $11.34, Noble's titles. Your education continues. As you study imperial law, you come to realize that there's a certain hierarchy even within the noble estate. It seems your father's status is not quite equal to that of the more eminent human and Arcanian gentry. You return home with this new information at your disposal. Father asks you about school after dinner, as he always does. And what is the difference between nobles of the mantle and those of the sword, Barry? You already have an answer ready. The latter's status is hereditary, meaning that it is passed down from father to son. After the Arcanians, nobles of the sword are the most eminent humans in the Empire. Their own land and estates, they fill offices of the highest ranks, and the names of their bloodlines are preserved within the Great Blue Book. Nobility of the sword can only be granted only by the overseer of the province or the emperor himself. And how are such eminent people addressed? With the honorific L before their last name, you respond. So Augustine L. Bourne, for example. Father pats you on the shoulder, clearly pleased. And what about the Arcanians and their status? What have you learnt about them? The Arcanians stand above all human gentry. They are born to rule over humans regardless of their titles. No L is required when addressing them. They need no honorifices, for their names of the ancient dynasties are known to all. Father nods somberly. Yes. We can never be their equals. Do whatever an Arcanian tells you and never defy them. Ever. And what about grandfather and me? Where do we stand as nobles? This is easy. Father and grandfather nobles of the mantle. This title cannot be inherited, but it can be earned by any commoner as a reward for great service to the Empire in the Legion or civil as a servant. As a civil servant. Father suddenly grows quiet and looks at you in the eye intently. Yes, and someday you will earn a noble title too, son. All in due time. Sons of the nobility. So Tibor's school teaches children of all stripes. Nobles of the mantle and low-born parents can send their sons there. And every passing day, the children of noblemen invent new ways to snub and bully the commoners. Most of the time, the bully leading them is Diedrich, the son of the secretary for the Imperial Chancellery and a self-important slob. The sons of noble never pick on you, however. They know that your father has been ennobled by the mantle. However, Diedrich and his retained soon choose Thomas as their favorite victim. Time and time again, you and your friend ask not to pay them any mind, but again and again, Thomas grows angry and snaps at their self-satisfied mockery. It is early morning. The students are busy flocking to the classroom for the next lesson. You wave Thomas over when you see him. He waves back at you, and then a bucket full of slop splashes on him. Needless to say, it is the work of Diedrich and his entourage. You hear his familiar creaky laughter. The tailor's son stinks. How dare he sit next to decent folk? Thomas clenches his fist. You're dead, Diedrich. He throws himself at Diedrich's haughty entourage like a soldier ready to wage war. He attacks them first. This is just what they expected, and they are free to retaliate. He barely makes one movement before 4 pairs of hands grab him at once. Diedrich sneers and kicks your friend in the belly. Thomas gasps for air and starts coughing. You stand between them as Diedrich readies another kick. The nobleman's son cocks an eyebrow. Why do you mingle with commoners, he asks. Your father is a noble of the mantle. You ought to be friends with your own kind. Your equals, not the dirt beneath your feet. Behind him, 4 boys hold Thomas down as he struggles furiously. The other students are watching you, frozen in fear. Diedrich haughtily extends a hand to you. He clearly expects you to shake it. Challenge Diedrich to a fight. You do not shake his hand. Instead, you challenge Diedrich to display at least some dignity by fighting you one-on-one. That is, if he considers himself a noble son, of course. Diedrich's face grows serious. There is no way for him to refuse this challenge in public. Diedrich makes a sign, and Thomas is released and pushed to the floor. He gets back on his feet, cursing and itching to rush them again. But you hold your friend back. The teacher for Imperial Law comes into the room just in time. Everybody immediately returns to their seats. After a day full of lessons, you keep daydreaming of Diedrich's face and how you are going to put an end to that nasty smile of his. Let's catch that bastard together and clean his clock. He hurt me, not you. A deal has been made, you tell your friend. This is a matter of your honor now. Thomas huffs angrily but agrees. Diedrich is already waiting for you in a narrow back street by the school. He is retained by his side. You walk forward and give him an opportunity to end this dispute once and for all. This is the nobleman's way. If you win this battle, Diedrich and the other children of nobles will never pick on the commoners' sons again. If he wins, you will never stand in their way and protect other students. You will fight him one-on-one. Diedrich walks forward uncertainly. You both roll up your sleeves. You raise your fists in a fighting stance. Diedrich tries to copy your movements. You hit him first. Diedrich does manage to land several glancing blows, but he is fighting a losing battle. He has never been in a real street fight. Thomas nods in approval. You have learnt a lot from him. It does not take long for Diedrich to stop fighting back. One more blow and he squeals and raises his hands. You have won. You turn to the other nobleman's sons with a victorious look on your face. No more teasing. If anybody else says so much as one bad word about Thomas, they'll pay. Diedrich's former retained disperses silently. Thomas, relations +1. Diedrich's former I already read that, sorry. Nobility +1, unprincipled. Well, my friends, I think this is where we are going to end this episode here, my friends. I hope you all enjoyed this beautiful, lovely episode of the life and suffering of Sir Brante. I will be doing a lot more of these episodes much closer together, so there won't be any more long waits. I do apologize about that. Still, my friends, have an absolutely lovely day, a lovely night, and hopefully I'll see you all really soon, okay?